I went from being flat broke at age 32 to becoming a millionaire by age 39. And a lot of it had to do with the content I was consuming on Twitter and investing and being self-disciplined.
Good morning, all, and welcome to the Wolf Podcast. Today, we're having a chat with someone who I've wanted to get on a podcast for a while, and that is The Art of Purpose, or at Creation247 from Twitter. He's a millionaire educator. He's all over Twitter with his masterclass community and so much more. And today, we're going to dive into both his professional background as well as how did he start on Twitter, what is the purpose and goal of his brand, and what advice does he have for others who want to replicate his success? Welcome to the podcast, AOP. Great to chat with you. Excited to have you on. I'd love to start out with just a little bit of your professional background because you actually started in teaching before migrating over to this area. How did you get started in teaching and what was the cause for change?
Thank you for having me on today. I really appreciate having me here. I've been a teacher for 20 years before I started my Twitter account. I don't talk about this often because I don't think that credentials really equal success, but I do have a master's degree in education and my bachelor's is in music education. I taught band for 20 years in the state of Texas. It's a good job. I enjoyed it. Coronavirus shut down my classroom and it compelled me. I didn't want to sit around being dark all day with, how the world was in May of 2020. It was rough. So I decided to pursue creative, tap into my creative instincts and start my own classroom on Twitter.
That's awesome. So what did it look like off the bat when you came into Twitter? Had you used Twitter on a different account previously at all? Did you have a feeling for the environment? Did you start looking up courses on how to grow, or was it just you putting out your thoughts?
Well, that's a great question. I had never written a tweet before in my life, which is, I find it funny. So I'd never written a tweet before. I started my Twitter account and I was one of those guys that was just on Twitter that was following all the personal finance accounts / stock accounts, pretty much all the guys that you follow, Ramp and The Fly and Chess and Wine and those guys. And I had started many side hustles as a teacher, so I came into a lot of extra cash. So I wanted to learn more about investing. So I started to follow all of those Twitter accounts back in 2013, 14. And those guys helped me make a few bucks. I'm not going to lie. Shout out to all of them. But I started my Twitter account in 2020, and I only read one book. It was Ed Lattimore's content creation course. In my guides, I do a lot of guides, right, for how to grow on Twitter, and I teach a lot of people currently. But as I hopped on, I wanted to make the content that I write the basis for my account. I didn't want to grow by any cheap hacks. I wanted to grow because of what I was writing was so compelling that people needed to share it by dropping retweets on it.
And so that writing and that stuff, where does it come from? And I think a lot of people have different approaches to this as they start out with. You mentioned something like a Ramp or like a Doug Boneparth, where it's often a little bit self-deprecating, right? It's humor, and they're really playing off of that emotion. There's also a lot of people where it's purely engagement-based. For a long time on Twitter, I was just asking questions and just tweeting out questions. You get a lot of engagement, it comes back. But there seems to be different pieces of that taken and then implemented within your content. A lot of it where, we can talk about the tweet which you just put out, which is doing quite well, where you said a boy becomes a man when he realizes no one will save him except himself. What's the mindset behind the way that you're writing? And then how much content are you creating at a time? Is it written out and it's scheduled for the week, or is it at will?
Well, right now, I think as we're recording this, I have something like 130,000 followers. What I do now is a lot different than what I did when I got started, right? When I got started, one of the things that you need to do is you need to get comfortable writing. So I would sit down at 5 in the morning because I had a job. I was a teacher. I would sit down, write down 5 in the morning. I'd write down 10 tweets fresh on my mind from when I woke up in the morning. Where were they coming from? Everything that you write about should come from your life. And this is basically it. Everything is a reflection of what has happened in the past. And when I started writing for my former self. Because I had made a lot of personal growth. I went from being flat broke at age 32 to becoming a millionaire by age 39. And a lot of it had to do with the content I was consuming on Twitter and investing and being self-disciplined with all of that approach. So a lot of what I write is to my past self. All of it's a reflection on my life. All of it is because there's other people. You have to think about this. What you have gone through in life and your experiences, they're worth sharing with other people. There's somebody else sitting in the same shoes that you have done, you have been in the past. And that kind of stuff is valuable to people. Those lessons that you've learned, those rules that you've picked up, they're valuable to people, and people need to hear them.
So I hear what you're saying with a lot of those experiences. What would you say to people who maybe don't have as much experience, right? Somebody that wants to come on Twitter and start growing at age 20, 21, they really want to build that audience and have those opportunities, but they maybe can't write from as many experiences, right? Maybe they've just experienced college and a job or two, right? They don't have decades. What should they be pulling from?
Well, again, the same rule applies. Your content and whatever you produce, and this doesn't matter. The rule is Twitter, it could be LinkedIn, it could be Instagram, it could be anything that you're writing, emails even. Everything that you're writing about is some kind of form of reflection in your life. It doesn't matter if you're 22, right? You should be writing about what you're doing then, right? Or you can even be right. I'm sure that you've picked up something that you've learned in the past 6 months. I think young men, especially, go through those stages a lot quicker, right? You know, that you look back at what you've been doing with, like, let's say you're 24, right? Let's say you look back at what you were doing and how you thought when you were 19. I bet you might cringe at some of those things, right? So that's something that you could be tweeting about, right? There's a lesson, there's a part of you that changed. That transformation is what you need to put into words and distill it into a single tweet.
How often are you taking your thoughts and turning them into tweets versus threads?
Versus threads? Well, I'll tell you this. I write down thoughts and ideas every single day. So I'm a very busy person these days, so I don't have enough time to sit down and write threads as much as I would because I'm very busy in communities, coaching, writing content, courses, emails. It's a full-time gig. As far as writing down ideas, and I don't think I'm a good example is where I'm at right now. Like, in fact, what I want to be talking about, most of the listeners aren't in my position, right? They're mostly at a stage where they're trying to grow or be at a lower stage. So I'm going to be giving advice to them, not as a reflection exactly what I do, okay? So what I would say is if you're somebody who doesn't know what to tweet about, you need to be carrying some kind of device or notebook or something with you at all times. And when you have these really great ideas, you need to get just in the habit of writing these down. And this has probably happened to you before. You're walking around and you're like, whoa, I have this like really great idea. And one of the worst feelings in the world is that you don't remember something that you came up with. It was like an absolute banger tweet or even a banger course. I wrote a course, 101 Ways, and I got the idea of writing it while I was mowing my lawn. And I was like, you know what would be awesome? Twitter templates for like all different kinds of tweets. Like all of the best Twitter templates that are out there will help people who don't know what to tweet about. And I immediately pick up my phone and jot it down. I'm always taking voice notes. Most of my viral tweets are just written, I'm sitting down, I have this idea, I put it into words, boom, it goes out there. So you need to get comfortable with the process of creating. And there's an idea out there that's known as the creativity faucet. And I've been a musician my whole life. And you've probably noticed this too. It's all about getting in the zone. And one of the things you're good at is you do these spaces all the time. I'm not sure, you probably don't have to sit there and go like, oh boy, today I'm going to do X, Y, Z. I need to remember to ask this. You've internalized this. It's part of you because you do it so much, right? And the same process applies to all content. Now, so when am I writing tweets? All the time. Like if I wake up and have a great idea, I'm writing it down. All right. And I'll aim for something like 8 or 9 to 10 ideas per day. James Altucher has this great idea where you write down 10 ideas per day just to get comfortable with. So if you're brand new at the game, write down 10 tweets per day. Like actually sit down, try to write, or just be in the flow with what's going on. It's all about building awareness in your life. And I get too many people, they come to me and they go, I don't know what to tweet about. Well, are you alive? What are you doing? Do you just sit in front of a TV? Even if you sat in front of a TV all day, you would be able to come up with 10 tweets, right? Because what you need to do, and I think writing, and this is why writing is so powerful, writing makes you more aware of the world around you. It builds your awareness. So let me give you a tip or two. If you're totally like have writer's block, after you consume some content, what you need to do is you need to reflect on it. Let's say that you'll watch a movie, okay? Like I just recently watched The Founder, which was a really great movie about, what's his name? Ray Kroc, the guy who built, you know who I'm talking
Was
about?
it the guy who built, was it McDonald's?
McDonald's, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
You're familiar with him. It's a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
Great movie, by the way. So after you, and I don't really watch many movies, okay? But when I do, I ask myself a few questions. Like, what was like, try to distill the movie down into one big takeaway. What was the one big takeaway? And the one big takeaway from that is that he had this like unwavering self-confidence because he knew that his ideas, the way that he thought, the way he aligned his thoughts and his positive thinking became a reality for him, right? So whenever you're consuming media, try to distill the big takeaway into one sentence. Ask yourself, does this remind you of any other story that you've seen before? Do you agree or disagree with the takes in the movie? The more aware you are of your surroundings, you're going to be able to use that as a starting point to write content. So don't just sit there and be a passive consumer, be an active consumer. And it's a much higher level of consumption when you're actually taking part and thinking alongside what you're either reading or watching.
Do you think being a strong writer requires a lot of reading?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
What type of reading?
What type of reading? I'm not going to sit here. I know many writing people out there will go, you need to read fiction. I know a lot of people are into fiction. Your fiction's going to make your writing more playful, right? It's going to expand your vocabulary. You could read poetry. You can read, all the great poets out there, and you can look at their rhythm and you can internalize. After reading enough of it, you're going to start to internalize some of the concepts. You can even try your hand at writing some of it too. You can read nonfiction as well. Influence, the Cialdini book, all the persuasion type books, heavy psychology. I spent years reading psychology, and I think a lot of that bleeds into the type of tweets that I write. Will give you a huge upper hand reading a lot of psychology books, marketing and sales books. You can read as much as you need to read. You make it a habit every single day to sit down and read something. But the point is, you're not just going to sit there and consume it. You need to try to internalize these concepts. Have discussion. The other thing that you need to do is you need to have discussions with your friends. I'm very big into networking. I'm a big networker. Form small groups of friends where you're discussing. Talk about, it wasn't just me watching The Founder. All my friends were talking about it. Eddie Kwan, who I'm good friends with, was like, hey, you should watch this movie. And then after we watched it, we discussed it. We're like, what did you like about it? So the goal is to become more aware of what you consume. And the discussions can lead to really great tweets. Some of my best tweets that have been written have been part of conversations that have been going on in my networks, right? So surround yourself with the right people, read the right books, and curate all of the bad stuff. What's bad consumption? It's something that is trying to make you addicted to watch more and more and more and more and more. I avoid all of those things. I avoid things that are just almost as there's just like too candy-ish. Any good content that's out there in the world is going to make you think, provoke discussions. And if it's not doing that, you're likely consuming something that's not really worth your time.
Interesting. So more maybe like a trivial TV show or something like that versus something like The Founder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got it. Yeah, funny that you actually mentioned The Founder. I only even heard of Ray Kroc because I was reading, I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's the How to Think Rich and Get Wealthy, something like that. I don't know.
Napoleon Hill. Yeah,
Napoleon Hill, yeah.
Well, in the movie, he actually listens to Napoleon Hill quite a bit. And it's funny you mentioned Napoleon Hill. Now, a lot of people will think and Grow Rich is just this BS. I've heard a lot of BS about it. I think there is something to it. I never once, even when I was building my net worth and investments, I never once doubted myself. Now, you may go, oh, well, it just happened to align with you. Okay. But I've noticed in life that the most successful people that I've ever met tend to be the most optimistic. And this is a something that I've noticed. I've actually tweeted that before. That being wildly optimistic is a trait for most millionaires that I meet. And that's not a coincidence.
Yeah, yeah, I think that makes sense and it lines up because often the optimist is the one that's actually looking for opportunity because they believe that it's there. Do you think that there is a best time of the day for people to be reading and writing?
Yes, I think at nighttime. Now, I don't want to say it's best for you because everybody's different, but in the mornings, I think you're at your most productive. And this is me, right? Like I wake up, I'll lift some weights. Then now these days, I used to just wake up and write tweets because I had a condensed schedule, but I'll lift. And then I'll spend an hour or two maybe reading and/slash writing at the same time. It's kind of like a mixed bag right there. I have like a few blogs that I really enjoy reading. I don't really read too much Twitter content. I like to see what some of the other big accounts are out there are writing about. And I like to see what people are talking about and what's on their mind. I think that's important. And then I'll write a few tweets, and then I'll see which one I like, and then I put the ones I don't like into a bag. And then I have like 2,000 tweets in my drafts folder. I'll never tweet any of those. Well, they're just not good enough. I look at what I write, and it's like, no, that's not good enough. No, I don't like that. And I think reading at night is probably one of the best things that you can do. Your mind is in that, hey, I'm going to read, and then you sleep on it and you come back the next day and you kind of internalize it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing. It's a bit of a dual purpose. One, yes, you get to sleep on it, but two, reading does often make me sleepy. So kind of helps with putting into that sleep cycle process. Okay, couple questions. You did talk a lot about the network. When did you start building a network within Twitter? I've seen obviously your Discord, right? You're associated with people like Steve and, J.K. Molina and other ones like that. How did that inner circle kind of form and how does it operate? Do you, I guess, there's a lot of people that exchange, engagement on Twitter, they exchange knowledge, they exchange different pieces. What are you getting and giving with the network?
Okay, so I'm actually going to pull this up. Actually, I'll get to you in a second there. So your network, right? There's a big misconception for what Twitter is. Twitter is a networking site. It's not a site about tweets, all right? It's about you building relationships with other people. Now, I think a lot of people, they come on here and they think Twitter is all about getting likes and retweets. That's not the fact. It's about you building relationships and forming friends, making lifelong friends. I cringe at the term network, right? I cringe at it. It's all about making friends. So when did I start doing it? Well, you mentioned something about engagement groups, right? So if you don't know, if you're listening and you don't know what an engagement group is, consider yourself blessed, all right? Because engagement groups are horrible. They're absolutely terrible. So there's all these, on Instagram and on Twitter, people form these networking groups where they share all this mediocre content together and they give each other likes and retweets so that they can astroturf their presence because they're having a hard time growing their account. And what you should be doing is instead of joining networking groups, you should be joining masterminds. And what a mastermind is, it's a whole group, it's a community that is talking about what's working for them, why it's working, gaining a higher understanding and awareness. We're sharing ideas. We've had one guy, who's in our mastermind community this month have 200 followers and organically go to 10,000 followers in a month. Why? Because he's paying attention to what's working from other accounts like Clint Murphy, Tessa Davis, who have all gained 30, 40,000 followers in the past month, and they're all in our communities. What's more valuable? Joining an engagement group where you're forced to like and share other people's posts, or actually learning what's going on from other accounts that are successful,
The
right?
learning part.
The learning part. And that's what we built, right? And as a teacher, I've done this for 20 years. The people who are in engagement groups, they're not really understanding what works because they're not paying attention. Their numbers are fake. So they're not really able to get a grasp on what their audience is really interested in. And that's the big problem. Meanwhile, in a mastermind, it saves you so much time because instantly you're going to learn what's working for all of the big accounts. We share. That's what a mastermind is. That's what a mastermind. All of us are saying, hey, I had this viral thread. This was what was going through my mind when I wrote it. Or Save Your Sons, who has 250,000 followers on Twitter, is telling you some of the growth tactics that he has used to grow on Twitter and Instagram. And all these guys that are writing threads, they're sharing how they come. That's what a community should be, not sitting here liking and forcing people to write retweets. So when I was growing through Twitter, the teacher in me was looking at all these engagement groups, and I was like, this is lame. What we need to do instead is start communities and start talking with each other and start learning and what's going on. So my masterclass, I would call it an outer circle. And it's important for everyone to be in an outer circle of friends. So you build an outer circle of friends and you join a community and you get to see what all of the outer groups are. What I suggest from there is to start forming an inner circle from there. So from your outer, you go like, hey, I have an inner circle of friends that's smaller. So from the community, you can meet other people. You can form friendships with other people. And you can start to peel off and have your own little circle and group too, where you start discussing, hey, I'm working on this project. I have these clients. What offers are you putting together? And we're very open with what we share. Like my inner circle group chats have launched many six-figure products, okay? And it's because we're sharing an open knowledge of what we're doing together. And that's how your circle of friends should be working. I don't let if you're not somebody who's going to be sharing and helping each other out I'm not interested in having you in my circle of friends. But if you are, one thing, I think people get networking mixed up. They go into it, they think, what can I get out of it? Right? If you're going in with that kind of mentality, you've already failed. You should be going in there wanting to make actual friendships, going to drinks with people. I've met up with some guys on the side, and you should be sharing what you're doing. You should be helping each other out. That's what a good circle of friends is going to do. And if you don't have that circle of friends, you need to go form it. And if you're having you just need to get out there and make one. So that's what our mastermind community, masterclass247.com, masterclass247.com. It helps you know what all of the big accounts are doing. So it saves you tons of time. And you're going to be able to grow much faster because you're going to know what everybody is winning with and their mistakes. We share our wins and losses in there. So you'll see what we're doing, and you'll see all the different approaches, and you'll see how we're making money online. And it'll save you all of the time so you can start implementing our strategies on your own if you'd like. And then you can share some of the wins that you have. And you can get feedback for that.
Is there a way to, if you had to like boil it down to, maybe 3 to 5 points that most accounts that are trying to grow should be doing but aren't doing yet, would you be able to list out a few of those things?
Yeah, absolutely. One, the biggest mistake accounts make is they have this broke mindset when they come onto Twitter. It's like, hey, I'm going to join this and you're going to like and retweet my post, and they don't really have an idea of how they don't have an end game in mind. And I've seen a lot of accounts. In fact, I've even been there. It's like you join and you're not really sure why you're there, right? Your content should align with how you're going to monetize in the long run. So if, for instance, you're a fitness account, you should be showing what you're doing in your life to be the guy that's going to be a fitness coach, for instance. Or if you're a trader, right? What are some of the trades that you're making? Why? What are you doing? What makes you the person that's going to earn somebody's business? So a lot of the accounts, they come in with this broke mindset because they think that they should just get people's business. Like, hey, I made this offer. I deserve people. One of the cool things about starting your own business and being an entrepreneur is that it's incredibly humbling. It's incredibly humbling because it's how the world really works. Like, if you don't provide value to the world, You're not going to get paid. So if you're somebody who just thinks, hey, I deserve people's business, wrong. You need to flip and you need to think about how you're going to earn people's business. So you need to provide immense value to the world where people are lining up to pay you for these reasons. So people need to ditch that broke mindset and get out of that. It's a consumer mindset. That's what it really is. They're so used to like going to McDonald's and getting it your way right away that they think that that's how the whole world operates. And I think the public school system's a large at fault for that. And I can say that being a public school teacher for 20, it doesn't really encourage people to critically think. And it encourages people to follow all of the rules, and they think that's what is good. That's not what is good. Like, you need to take a look at what works, what people are interested in, and then you need to fill the gap in what is there. So get rid of that consumer broke boy mindset is number one. Two is to understand that Twitter is a networking site first. People will start an account and they'll think, oh, I have 5 followers, I'll tweet like the world's greatest tweet and I'm going to blow up. And I've been there as well. Like, I wanted to win with content at an early stage. The problem with that is that nobody will see your tweets. So you need to start networking and talking with other people and forming relationships, because at the early stages, you're going to need to start having people, you're going to need to comment on other people's posts as well, because you're going to need to draw traffic to your site. I mean, you've been there, Wolf, right? You know, one of the hardest things to do is grow a Twitter account when you have less than 100 followers.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
It's the hardest thing in the world because nobody's going to see your tweet. You're tweeting it to a wall. And I think a lot of people, they come on there or they start their accounts and they think just like, I'm going to write the world's great. And some of them write great tweets and nobody sees them. Well, you need to. This is why the communities are so important, especially at an early stages, because people are going to see you and they're going to see some of your tweets more often, which is going to draw traffic to your site, which is going to help you grow a lot quicker. So those are the 2 biggest tips. One is you got to ditch the consumer mindset. 2, you have to understand how Twitter works and use it as a networking site, or you're never going to get any eyes on your account.
What's the best way to network? Is it to write a well-crafted DM? Is it to comment on their posts regularly? For example, I do a couple of workshops on this in the past. I did one 2 weeks ago where I talked with people about, if you really want to make a splash, first interact a minimum of 10 times with me on the timeline with comments that actually add value to my post. Then move into the DMs. Once I've interacted back with you, wait for an interaction back. If it takes 10, 20, 30 times, whatever it is, come into the DMs, introduce yourself in the DMs, say, who you are, what you do, what you want, and what you can offer. And that gives me a full picture. I've seen you on the timeline. I know you're engaged. Now I know exactly who you are, what you want, what you can offer, and we can move to the next steps of, building that relationship. That's how I put it out. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how to establish those relationships in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, that's great for how to establish a relationship with you, right? But I don't even think a brand new account should even be trying to establish a relationship with you. So what I think is what you need to do is you need to establish relationships first with other accounts that are at the same stage as you are. So if you're an account with 50, 100, 200 followers, why don't you try reaching out to other accounts that are under 1,000, that are in the same niche as you, have content as you, and try to form relationships with people who are on the same journey. You're going to form the strongest bonds with them. You're not going to form the strongest bonds with me, okay? This is not going to happen because I have way too many people DMing me and trying to get in touch with me, all right? It's just not going to happen. Sorry. It's unrealistic. So start to form relationships with people who are at the same level and stage that you're at. Start growing with them. Start providing value onto their timeline. And then later on, once you have like a few thousand followers, then you can start reaching out to some of the bigger accounts, because then you've proven that you've put some time into this, right? And if you want to go after, and if you want to talk to like a Wolf or myself or like Save Your Sons or all of these bigger accounts that are out there, what you should do is you should try to establish a relationship on the right foot. And it's really no different than coming in like at a bar. If you're going to talk to somebody at a bar, right? I think that every Twitter should be treated like Cheers, all right? Where everybody knows your name and having a good time. But you don't go to somebody, and some of the worst DMs I get are they're kind of like, hey, or can you retweet my post? I bet you get all those all the time. I block and delete those people instantly. I mean, who wants to do that? Could you imagine walking up to somebody at a bar and being like, hi, I need you to buy me a drink? I mean, that's basically what you're
Yeah.
asking. Get out of my face. Okay. You're out of cheers, right? So what you need to do is you need to establish relationships with people the right way. Go up to them and say, hey, can I buy you a drink? Right? Hey, or go up to them and be like, I really love this thread that you posted. Be genuine about this too. I really like this thread you posted or the spaces that you had. You can go up to Wolf and be like, yo, that spaces that you had with XYZ, I loved it. Why don't you bring AOP on more often? Because he really brings the knowledge the right way. And he's not as corporate-y as some of these other guys. Anyway, but the relationships you should be talking, the things you should be talking about to them should be like genuine conversations. And or if you're from a business perspective, come to them with an offer that's a no-brainer. So some of these guys will like pitch me these offers and it's just like, why? But maybe you can say, hey, I can do this for free for XYZ, see how you like it. Those are the right ways to approach it with people. So my biggest tip to you if you're networking is to A, get in a community so that you can start finding accounts that are around the same size as yours and seeing what all the big accounts do. B, treat it more like building a friendship. And C, always go into it with the idea that you're going to give more than you get. Okay? You will never lose with these strategies. You will never lose. And then as you get bigger and bigger and bigger, you actually make your inner circle smaller and smaller and smaller. That's one of the things that I do. Is I only associate with other people who have that same mentality as mine that are going to give more than they get.
Got it.
So I'll curate my friendships over time.
That's a really interesting concept. I've actually never heard of anyone speaking of going from a bigger circle and culminating that, or cultivating that into a smaller circle as they grow. I've only really seen people do it the opposite way, where they start with a smaller circle and grow into a bigger one.
That's a big mistake. Yeah. So, no, well, I suggest that people actually have two circles, right? You should have two circles of friends, one a large circle, right? And basically your large circle is going to be a pool for who's going to be in your inner circle. I mean, you ever see Meet the Parents where De Niro's like, you got the circle of trust, right? Ultimately, you should be forming a small circle of trust.
Got it. What's your main goal with Twitter?
Oh, that's a great question. I came onto this platform with, I just wanted to share ideas and start a classroom and give back to the world as much. Like Twitter changed my life. I'm not going to lie.
Same.
Yeah. Isn't it unbelievable? Twitter changed my life. I was broke and I was in a bad shape in life. And I started consuming the right content in life. And what you have to think about this. Like, I know so many people knock Twitter, but Twitter's beautiful. If your Twitter feed is bad, it's a reflection of your mind, right? You need to follow the right people. You need to follow the people that inspire you, bring you knowledge. And, I found the right people. I started consuming the right content. Compare it and contrast it to what you see on the TV. The TV is complete pure propaganda. Every single thing you see on TV is 100%. It's all, producers only want you to see certain things that are in line with advertisers in mind. There's a whole set of ideas. That's why, you can see news broadcasts from all around the world and they'll all hit use all the same talking points because that's what they want you to think. Twitter is what you choose to think, right? You're the one that's seeking out what you want. And the beauty of social media is that it's an alternative to what you see on cable. And it's free, which is mind-blowing. You don't have to pay to watch this or read any of these great things. And it's going to change your life and it's going to make you wealthier and richer. And if the people you're following don't make you wealthier and richer, well, then you need and healthier, then you need to follow the right people. So what's my end game? I don't know. I think like at the end of the day, I want to help change the world. And I know this sounds just absolutely nuts, but like, it sounds like, something crazy. You see it, but no, I want to shift people's perception. I want people to believe that they have full control over their lives because I think society has pushed us. I think we're in a crisis. I really believe this. Society's in a crisis where people feel helpless. They feel like they can't, make ends meet and they can't, it's just overwhelming. This is why you saw so many people in the Great Resignation just get out of their jobs, because it never was fulfilling to them in the first place. And that's why I picked the name, The Art of Purpose. I became a millionaire, but it did nothing for me spiritually. And I'm not saying the money's bad. Like, money does equal a bit of happiness, but deep down inside, there's something that we should all be pursuing that's far deeper. And my account exists to help people realize that you have a purpose in life, that there are big ideas that you can share with the world, and there's so much more than what you see on TV. I'm very, very like anti cable news, video games, even really, and modern and media and popular music, which is all written by the same like two people, really. Anyway, I'm all against all of that kind of stuff and people thinking for themselves. And the more people that I can change, I'm kind of giving it back, right? The whole way, I'm kind of giving it back to the world and showing people you can make full-time money online. I make so much more now. I make 10 times now what I made as a teacher. All right. I ain't just straight. Okay. And the reason why, and that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur offers those kinds of opportunities, and there's a different kind of lifestyle that is out there. And that's the lifestyle that I'm going to be promoting. Free thought, free thinking, living on your own, living on your terms.
I really like that as a note to kind of wrap up on here, especially the thing that you said about purpose. And I kind of had a moment last night, actually. I was having dinner with my mom, and she said something just very offhand, which kind of ties in a lot to what we've talked about here today, especially where you were talking about the optimistic people. And the conversation we were having was some of the people that are actually going through the hardest things that we've seen in life, people that have, lost kids and other stuff like that. They sometimes turn out to just be the most optimistic and happiest people that we've seen. And we were curious, and we were kind of trying to weasel into why that is. And one of the things that we noticed was they all really focused their lives on giving back. And they gave back to the community, they were engaged with communities, they were helping out, and all those type of things. And just very offhand, my mother was like, that's the secret to life, be purposeful. And I thought that it worked in really well with what we were going over today with that art of purpose, where exactly like you said, right, that money can come and it can do a lot and it can make you happy. But I think that there's diminishing returns at a certain point, and the
Absolutely.
increasing returns really start with having purpose.
Absolutely. I think that a lot of, I hate saying this, but a lot of depression, especially with men, can be cured if they understand why you're here. So one of the things that changed my life in 2013 is I actually sat down. Every man should sit down and write down what their purpose in life is. Like, you should have a mission statement in life. And if you don't have a mission statement in life, you're really missing something. You're missing the point. Why should I do this, AOP? Why should I sit down and write a mission statement? Well, when you decide to write this down, your words are going to have power. Your words are going to have real power. You're going to write this down and you're going to take a look at it. And let's say you're like, hey, my purpose right now is to become a better man that is going to be virtuous, and I'm going to build my wealth and build a family. Let's say that you write something like that. And then, you know what, your homies come to you on Saturday night and say, hey, do you want to drink until 4 a.m? Well, you're going to look at your purpose and you're going to go, well, do my actions align with what that purpose is? So what you're going to do is you're going to write down this purpose, and then you're going to start looking at your life using the purpose as a way, as a kind of like a prism, right? You're going to see, it's like a lens. You're going to see everything through this purpose now. And then once you use this purpose, it's going to help you make decisions for all your future actions. And then when you align your actions with your purpose, it's an absolutely beautiful thing.
That's awesome. And that gives you just, another reason to get up in the morning and get out of bed, because I think that's where some people falter, right? It's literally just getting out of bed with a reason.
Everything in life should bring you energy. And this ties back to why I'm so anti-consumption. When you watch a lot of these news, TV shows, Netflix shows, they're designed to get a reaction from you. They're designed to get you addicted. They're designed to make you depressed and steal your energy. Everything in life should be bringing you more energy. And the more you tap into your creative instincts, the more you build, the more you create, the more energy you're going to have in life. I wake up every single day full of energy. And a lot of it is because I create 24/7. I'm constantly in tune with what life is bringing me, always trying to figure out what is going on, building my awareness and creating new things. So my biggest tip to all of you out there, just pay attention to what is going on in the world and align it with your values and start building and creating every single day.
Beautiful note to wrap up on. For those that want to, really dive deeper into this and perhaps even learn from you, where's the best place for them to contact you, reach out, and continue, learning more about this topic?
Join our community, masterclass247.com. It's our mastermind community of social media entrepreneurs. We have accounts in there with 250,000 followers. Wolf is in there with us. I'm actually going to interview Wolf later on. A couple of weeks, we're going to talk about how to put on spaces because I love what you've done with that. It's just absolutely fantastic. And it's all of our huge accounts that are out there on Twitter. We're all in a community. We're all sharing what works, and we're teaching each other what we know. I hope you have a chance to join us inside of masterclass247.com.
I'll echo the sentiment there. I am inside of Masterclass Discord. Recommend you hop in, especially for the one coming up in a couple of weeks. If you made it to the end of the podcast here, go ahead and drop me a DM on Twitter. Let me know if you enjoyed any parts of it. Specifically, if you had any big takeaways, I'll be sure to respond to you. It's a great way to get an answer through the DMs. That's going to do it for today's episode of the Wolf Podcast with The Art of Purpose. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope this was super helpful for discovering your purpose and a bunch of different ways and reasons to use Twitter.